Hi everyone. Entrepreneurs Relief or Business Asset Disposal Relief, which is its proper name, is going up from April this year, 2026. So what that means is, let's say about over a year ago, it was 10%. If you sold your company, you'd pay a flat 10% on the value of that sale up to £1 million. And then last year, Rachel Reeves put that up to 14%. And now from April, it's going up to 18%. So this is a really good time to recap how holding companies can actually save you tax when you sell your business. So essentially how a holding company works is a lot of people own their businesses by just owning the shares personally in their business. But some people use a holding company. So what happens is they own the shares in the holding company, and then the holding company owns the shares in their business. There are many advantages of a holding company, some disadvantages as well, but I'm not going to go into all of them because then this would be like a 20-minute video. But I do have a 20-minute video that I've done in the past, so just go to our website and go to the articles and you'll see it there. But actually, the way a holding company saves you money when you sell a business is because normally if you sold your shares in your business, you would then have a gain, hopefully. The idea is to make money. And that gain would then be taxed at 18% from April. You get a small, I think it's £3,000 capital gains allowance against it, but typically it'd be charged at 18%. So that's, bear in mind, a lot of the money in that business is money that you've already paid corporation tax on in the past. So paying 18%, it's not as bad as paying higher rate dividend tax, but it is still a lot of money. But then you might say, actually, if I'm getting £1 million in this business and I've only got to pay 180,000, then actually that's not a bad deal. And you might want to take that deal. And that's where a holding company might not be the right thing for you. But let's say you don't want to pay 180,000, because quite often if you sell a business and you're getting £1 million for it, you're not really getting £1 million for it today. You might be getting 200k today, and then you might be getting 800,000 as a loan over 3 or 4 years. And then if you're getting your £200,000 deposit and you just got to send that all to HMRC straight away, that can be quite annoying. So a holding company, what you then benefit for if you do have a holding company, is something called the substantial shareholding exemption. So what that means is, if a holding company sells its shares in a company, in the same way intercompany dividends are tax free, so are intercompany capital gains. So if you sold your shares at profit in a company, in your business directly, you would pay 18% capital gains tax. Whereas if your holding company sells those shares, it doesn't pay any tax whatsoever. You might be thinking, wow, that's amazing. Why doesn't everyone do it? In the end of the day, the money then is still then in your holding company, so you don't personally have access to it. So if you wanted to then get access to it, you'd have to do a members' voluntary liquidation in that holding company and pay it out as dividends. So you would then be paying tax to get it out. But if you sold your main business and then you wanted to go into other ventures, let's say you wanted to get into property, you wanted rental properties, you wanted an SPV, you wanted property development, or if you wanted to set up another business, if you wanted to invest in other people's businesses and just be a more silent shareholder, having all that money sitting in your holding company tax-free is great, because then you can then utilize it for other things. As it makes more profit, there will be tax on it later, but at least you're not paying the tax up front and you don't have that cash flow hit up front. If you got that 200,000 as a deposit and 800 to come later, having that 200,000 right now means you can then go and invest in other stuff rather than having to pay it, most of it, to HMRC. So that's why holding companies can be really useful if you're thinking about selling your business. If you've got any questions, just get in touch.